Welcome back to the show, everybody. We got lots of news to go over today, one of which is the SEC versus Ripple. We have a motion granted. Roll that beautiful intro. Let's find out.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. You can follow us on TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook for exclusive content. Right now, the market is at $885 billion market cap. It is dismal out here. Crypto winter is on, and I don't think it's over yet, but Bitcoin 16,008, we'll see what's going on. 18% off on the 7-day. Ethereum 1200 plus, 19% off on the 7-day. XRP is 38 cents, 17.2 off on the 7-day as well. But you know what? We got Ripple coming up. We got to address some news that went on yesterday on Fox too. We're going to clean up on all of that and see what's going on out here, what we have currently. But right now, you need to know this about Ripple Swell. Link2.com says in order to celebrate Ripple Swell 22, they are providing a limited time value added pricing on Ripple. That's right. If you want Ripple shares, including lowering our tiered pricing while supplies last through Swell's time period, which is November 17th at 11:59 p.m. Pacific time. Don't mess around. Click that link underneath the video. How much longer is the window open for you to get Ripple if you're an accredited investor? I mean, I have some. I love, I don't have nearly as much as I'd like to have, but nevertheless, the point is, if you're going to get some, I don't know how much longer that window's open. And we need to pay attention to the little things that are going on here as far as regulation, who's being put into what place. We know we saw over the summer, Michael Esbar, former Ripple advisor, former Treasury official, former architect of Dodd-Frank, former architect of Dodd-Frank, where FSOC came from, the Financial Stability Oversight Council, which Elizabeth Warren has been leaning into all summer to do something and take action so Congress doesn't have to on stable coins and crypto. Well, we see here the FDIC has a new appointee, and it is for Joe Biden here. And it says it is acting chair Martin Grunberg to assume the position as a 5-year term. What I want to give you is a reminder here. First of all, Elizabeth Warren says these things. Grunberg has spent his career fighting for consumers and is well equipped to defend the banking system from new and existing threats. Well, if you ever wanted to know about all of this, I absolutely personally myself believe that FTX is backed in doing the bidding of all the legacy firms and investors and bankers to destroy the underpinning of crypto from the last 12 years so they can rip it out and then force Congress or FSOC to act and create this moment to come in and clean it up. Now, some will say that is extremely cynical, but I give you this analogy. Imagine if you had built a deck on the back of your home, or actually a porch. And you say, you know what, I'm going to put a porch on the back of the house for the family here. And you do that, and you have a bunch of buddies come over, you slam a bunch of drinks, and you throw it up. You don't get any permits. You just kind of do it however. And years later, you decide, you know what, I want to close this in and make it a part of the house. But you come to find out that you can't because it's not really built properly. That's how the market infrastructure for crypto has been put together thus far as a whole. I think that's a great analogy, I do believe. No permits, right? No inspectors, right? No regulation. Just a bunch of people just going for it. Move fast, break things. The Silicon Valley motto, right? I do agree that there needs to be a framework, certainly, so we can get the institutional money in here. But I'll get down off the soapbox. But I just really wanted to say that I do believe that this is the moment we're in. And I also believe there's been many bad actors pushing platforms and projects and businesses out here to do harmful things so they can have more control later. And what's a few billion spent on wrecking a market that is going to have all the money of the world moving through it after it's digitized and tokenized. It's really not that hard to believe. And what is normal these days? She goes on to say, to the extent of such activities can be conducted in a safe, sound manner, the agencies will need to provide robust guidance to the banking industry on management of prudential and consumer protection risk raised by crypto asset activities. I think this is a big statement coming from Elizabeth Warren, knowing that this summer she was leaning very hard on Nellie Liang, Undersecretary to Janet Yellen at the U.S. Treasury, for FSOC to take action. And that is the words I'm hearing there in that statement right there. And then it goes on to say, as acting chair, Grunberg presides over the FTC, issued cease and desist letters in August to companies for allegedly making false representations about deposit insurance related to cryptocurrencies. It goes on to say Grunberg will testify before the Senate Committee November 15th, which is today, and the House Financial Services Committee tomorrow on the oversight financial regulators in the United States. However, in October, the acting head suggested stablecoins used for payments merited further consideration by the FDIC. All this to say that I see a moment where FSOC is still being pressed on to act, and I'm sure that FDIC is probably a part of that conversation as well. Now, just to clear this up from everything from yesterday, Natalie Brunell, we reported, and Fox reported that Maria Bartiromo said in the conversation, in a leading comment, throwing it back to Natalie Brunell, that you believe that the SEC versus Ripple case will basically have a settlement today. She said tomorrow, but meaning today. Well, she shook her head and she agreed, and she went on to talk about whatever happens tomorrow, right? She didn't correct Maria. She didn't. If that was said about me and I didn't have that off-camera conversation with you, then I would absolutely be like, well, first of all, I don't feel those things. She never corrected Maria. She ran with the idea. She also, within the statements that she made, really tried to associate XRP with having a CEO, pointing to Brad Garlinghouse at Ripple, and obviously we all know that that is not accurate. But she comes out and she clears the air here for anybody who needs to know. She said that the Fox Business News is supposed to run a correction today for the network graphics and for saying a settlement was expected, since that was never a claim that she made or was aware of. We will see how Fox responds today. I did say to her, as I just mentioned, XRP doesn't have, she said, actually, I never said Ripple is FTX, because there really was like a comparison in the layout of the story in the interview that FTX is this bad thing. And then immediately we go right into the settlement. And then obviously she says things that tries to associate, XRP as having a CEO. She says, I actually never said Ripple is FTX. I said anything with CEO, ICO, pre-mine foundation, etc. isn't Bitcoin, which is true, and people shouldn't trust, they should verify. XRP and Bitcoin don't compete. I have no updates on trial and never have. I said XRP doesn't have a CEO, Natalie. Ripple does, and it is very disingenuous that you try and connect the two. However, you are right about the fact they don't even compete. Bitcoin is way slower, more expensive to use than XRP. Not a maxi statement, just the facts. And then we get to this. You talk about some more facts? Now, I'm blocked from Charles Hoskinson, but David Schwartz systematically destroyed the position of Charles Hoskinson. And I have mad respect for Charles, even though he's blocked me, I believe, out of fear, because I have never said one harmful word to him, nor would I, or anyone else. But he really asked all the right questions here, and David got down to it. Now, I'm not going to spare you the thread, but I will tell you this in summation. He says, I'll be blunt one more time, and this may not be fair, so I'll be clear that this is just how I feel, fair or not. It's how I feel. David Schwartz says, I feel like you, talking to Charles Hoskinson, are asking us to fight less hard for what we believe is right, because you think it may harm your interest. Vitalik did the same. Basically, the thread boils down to exactly this. ETH FreePass, yup, it's unfair. So you agree it's unfair? Yes. So we must address it. No, it's a conspiracy theory. You said it was unfair? Yes. So we must address it? No. That's essentially the stance that it boiled down to. And when it comes to whether we may have a settlement or not, we don't know. But legal analyst Jeremy Hogan did tell us some time ago that if there was going to be one of the greatest windows of opportunity for that moment would be from September 15th to November 15th. He says, I don't think so highly of myself, but in case we just witnessed a strange game of whisper from me to Fox News, what I said was, if the Ripple case was going to settle, the most likely time would be from September 15th to November 15th. Not that the case is going to settle on November 15th, but that is what he remarked on. And he said, if I had known the case was settling tomorrow 2 months ago, I would not be on Twitter right now. I would be in the Bahamas preparing to buy that compound that SBF used to live in. Oh, yeah. Good stuff, Jeremy. Good stuff. Then there is this. Because what we're left with from the Fox interview that's so puzzling is what the question I asked yesterday. Natalie, was the source yours or was the source about a settlement Fox or Maria Bartiromo's? ProCoin News says this. I know Fox Business claimed the settlement rumor was false. I know Ripple said it was false. But folks, the graphics didn't make themselves. Someone is planning for this very soon. No accident. I've just got a feeling, says ProCoin News. Well, I hope that feeling's right. I don't know what to feel at this point. I'm so jaded and beat up and cynical from the 4+ year bear market that we probably will have the case end, and it'll still take me 2 weeks to realize that it's ended, and I'll even be reporting on it. And it'll still feel like, man, it's not, is it real? Did it really happen? Is it really over? Well, we take one step closer today towards that, ladies and gentlemen, and it's right here. The Ripple is granted, the SEC versus Ripple judge has granted the motion here. Now, all applicants, all amicus brief filing applicants, have until November 18th to file the amicus briefs with Coinbase, the first supporter. Ripple has already filed its brief, and its U.S. exchange argues that the SEC has filed adequate guidance to the crypto industry. We have that for you. But this here is the actual motion granted right here. Shout out to Jim for all he does for all of us. Judge Torres has granted motions to file amicus briefs by November 18th. The association, 6 XRP holders, Coinbase, the CCI, Val Hill, Cryptillion, VeriDAO, Reaper Financial, InvestReady, NSEI, and Paradigm must file their formal briefs. Motion granted. And then we have just very quickly here the amicus brief filed by Coinbase. And basically what they really stick to here is a couple points in this that I really like that stood out for me. They point out these other cases, that obviously case law and examples here. It says here the stand for proposition that the government agencies cannot enforce legal prohibitions against conduct that their prior enforcement policies allowed, lack fair notice of the SEC's interpretation of accounting rule, and they cite that Trinity Broadcasting, a Florida case. And then they go on to talk about here, bearing these precedents in mind, the SEC is not entitled to summary judgment ruling that finds as a matter of law that there is no set of facts under which Ripple fair notice defense could prevail at trial. As Ripple has argued, the mere fact that so many market participants believed that XRP sales were allowed raises substantial disputed questions of the fact about whether a person of ordinary intelligence would have understood the SEC's guidance to allow the very XRP sale that it is now seeking to punish. Now, I never started looking at any kind of briefs or filing until this case came about. So I don't want to pretend like I've seen a million of these things, but there is some great stuff inside of this, I must say. But there is another spot here on page 19 that I just wanted to share with you guys as well, and I thought it was relevant. It says traditional disclosures also don't cover features unique to digital assets would be considered important to market participants, such as the supply and demand of cryptocurrency tokens, the risk of blockchain network attacks, what kind of governance rights, are embedded in which tokens, who has the ability to change the code underlying assets or network, or features that do not exist with respect to stocks or traditional securities. The disclosures that digital asset holders may need are materially different from those in public companies typically make. If current disclosures rules were applied, cryptocurrency market participants would be left with both incomplete and irrelevant information. That's an important point about saying what currently exists doesn't work. It doesn't fully address the issues and the gaps. And I think that's a very clear point to make there. Existing SEC registration requirements for national security exchanges are currently unsuitable to the way digital asset platforms operate. A major innovation in digital asset markets has been internalized the custody, trade matching, execution, and settlement of digital assets within a single entity. Now, I think this is relevant because we're getting into the current events that have taken place recently, which is the FTX collapse. Now, they're making the argument here that platforms should be able to handle all of the custody, all of the trade matching and execution and settlement because it cuts out the friction in the intermediaries. However, yet one has to wonder with FTX using their own customer funds from Alameda. I mean, I don't know how that's received, but I know it's very relevant. But it talks about the fact that these hurdles risk driving investment and innovation in digital assets offshore. And I found that to be very relevant too, because FTX is offshore. How this shakes out, I truly don't know. I mean, there's how I'd like it to shake out, and then there's what could possibly happen, as Jeremy Hogan has even said, and John Deaton. Shout out to John and Jeremy. There are multiple outcomes of how this case could come out, not just simple win or lose. And I think that's the biggest thing to watch out for now, because, just a few days from now, all amicus briefs will be in, and then there will be the reply from the SEC to come. And what is it after that but a ruling itself? So there it is, ladies and gentlemen. Not financial advice from me or anyone else, just my digital perspectives. I'll catch all of you on the next one.